it's Felicity. It's another Saturday, and that means we have another very, very special guest here on the Penguin Teen YouTube channel. Now, I know from experience it's going to take a beat for everybody to join in, so I'm just going to chat for a little bit while we wait for a few more people to join us on this live chat. Very excited about today's guest because today's guest is one of my favorite authors, has been for a long time. As you can tell from my accent, I'm Australian, can't even say my own country. And Marie has been to Australia, has visited us there, and that's when I first met her because she's amazing. And she came to visit us at the Penguin Australia office. And then when I moved to New York, she's been at BookCon, San Diego Comic-Con, and she's just been a delightful person to talk to and work with all the time because I just think she's amazing. So if you're joining us, please let us know in the comments so I can see you. Hi, I can start to see everybody joining. That's great. So to recap, the guest today, the one and only, the super amazing Marie Lu, author of the Legend series, author of the Young Elites series, author of the Warcross series, and the recently released the Kingdom of Back series. So excited to have her on the show. Everybody, please put your cups, your hands together, everyone at home, for Marie Lu! Yay!
Hey, hi Felicity. It's always so fun to talk to you. So thanks for having me on. This is super fun.
So excited to talk to you as well. For everyone who's joining us in this chat, this is what we like to call a free-for-all Q&A. So drop your questions in the comments and we will get Marie Lu answering them straight away. We are ready to do a full hour of questions, but I have to ask because I get to control this. First of all, Marie, tell us about The Kingdom of Back, which just came out. I want to know all the details. I mean, I know all the details because I've read it, but I want to hear you talk about it because I love the way you talk about this book.
Thanks. The Kingdom of Back is definitely my outlier book. It's very different from everything else that I've ever written. It's standalone, so that's different in itself. And it's also the first book that I ever like. It's not the first book I ever wrote, but it's the book that I tried to pitch to get published before Legend. So I've been working on this book for a very long time, like over a decade or so. And it was written because, well, it's a historical fiction. It's about Nannerl Mozart, who is Wolfgang's older sister, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's older sister. And not a lot of people know about her, and I didn't know about her until I was in my early 20s. I've always been fascinated by Mozart and just music in general. And when I found out that he had a sister who was apparently just as talented as he was, I was like, why haven't I heard about this person? And so I decided to read everything I could about her, and it turns out that she was incredibly prodigious, and she toured with Wolfgang when they were young. But because she was a woman growing up in 18th century Europe, she was not allowed to become a composer in the same way that Wolfgang ultimately became. And I just thought that was so tragic and haunting. And as a person who is in the creative arts and needs that feeling of being able to let out your creativity and try to share it with the world, that was really sad to me to think about, that this young lady was not allowed to do that simply because she was a woman. So I knew that I had to write a book about her. And when I was reading a biography about Mozart, I found this little detail about them. And it was that when they were young children together and touring together, they created this magical kingdom for themselves called the Kingdom of Back to pass the time in the carriage. And they got really into it and they drew a map of it and everything. And I just thought that was the most magical little detail about their lives. So my interest in Nannerl combined with my discovery of this little detail about the Kingdom of Back that they created went into making this book. So the Kingdom of Back is a standalone historical fantasy about Nannerl Mozart as a young girl and her relationship with her brother as they are young, prodigious composers and musicians touring Europe together, and about this magical kingdom that they create for themselves. And as the story goes on and Nannerl becomes more and more frustrated with her lot in life, she begins to, the kingdom begins to manifest in their reality, and it becomes a darker and more menacing place. Until one day, this young princeling from the kingdom comes to her in a dream and gives her an offer that she can't refuse. So that's a little bit about the Kingdom of Back, and it just took me forever to do because it's outside of my comfort zone, but it's very close to my heart, so I hope that people like it if they get a chance to read it.
Yeah, and I'm seeing already in the comments below people who have loved this book already. So that's amazing because the book's only been out for about a month now, I say. So that's amazing. But I have so many questions, but already the questions are being flooded. So let's get to your questions. And the very first question comes from Katie DeCourty, and she wants to know is, what are you reading right now?
What am I reading right now? I will go grab it from my shelf.
I love this. Yeah, go grab it.
Yeah, so this is my home office. Where is it? So this is Andrea Robertson's next book that's coming out. So if you don't know, Andrea Robertson was also the author of the Nightshade series, and she's incredibly good at writing these beautiful character relationships and beautiful romances. This is her next one that's coming out in May. It's called Forged in Fire and Stars, and it is about a girl named Ara who is destined to be the next lore smith of her world, which is like the person who's in charge of creating all of these legendary weapons for their kingdom. But since the monarchy has like a downfall, like all of that goes kaput, and like it's about a thief that goes with her. She's on this quest to like regain that title for herself, and there's a princess and a prince, and it's just got everything that you could ever want from one of her stories. So I highly recommend it. I am in the middle of reading this right now, Forged in Fire and Stars. So if you get a chance to pick it up in a few weeks, I highly recommend you do that.
Yeah, and for those who are wondering, it comes out the 5th of May in the US. So that's exciting. And as a little aside, Penguin Teen just launched the pre-order campaign for that book. So if you go to penguinteen.com, there's more details there. Got to get a plug in, of course, of course. The next question, though, enough plugging, comes from Janice Yang, and she wants to know, is there going to be any movie about Legend coming out?
Is there going to be a movie about Legend coming out? I mean, currently we are in... Gosh, I'm like trying to talk about... There's a lot of things happening at the moment that I can't quite elaborate on, but in short, we are figuring out a negotiation for the film rights right now, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the best case scenario. There are a couple of scenarios that may happen, so that's about as much as I can say about it, but we're trying our best, and we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah,
hopefully someday I can say more than that.
It's a tough question, that one. So, like, you know, yes, we all want one desperately, but unfortunately these things take time. So we'll get there. Okay, the next question comes from Addison Abbott, and Addison wants to know is, what character from your books would you want to be quarantined with?
Ooh, which character from my books would want to be quarantined with me? That is the question. Yeah. I think they would very much not like to be in my company because I have done terrible things to all of them. I think that, let me think. I feel like it would be very handy to have Raffaele quarantine with you just because he's like got the beauty routine down. And I feel like he would help me like stay in a state of semi-composure and teach me how to do my nails by myself and that kind of thing. But like, I think Amika would be fun to be with. I think she's... Yeah, like I feel like she knows her way around online really well also, so she can show me Warcross. Like, that'll be something to, like, pass the time with. Definitely if I'm stuck in my house all day, I can just be in, like, VR Warcross, and I would be pretty happy, I think. Yeah, I think Amika would be pretty fun.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay, next question, because we got lots. So this is we're gonna try and get to everybody, I promise. So the next question comes from MXI Paris. And they wanted to know is what was the hardest character death to write? And I'm going to say now for everyone who's watching, spoilers. So Marie, you can talk about spoilers here. If you haven't read a Marie Lu book, good luck to you in this chat because it's going to get spoilery.
That's a really easy one for me to answer, and the answer is Adelina. Like, by far, she has been the most difficult character for me to write ever. Just because she is so dark. And when I started writing that book, I thought it would be really fun to be in the headspace of somebody who was essentially Teen Darth Vader. And I was like, this is going to be so great. I get to be the villain from a first-person point of view. And then I started writing her, and then the realization set in that I was going to be in this head for 4 years. And it was hard, just because, Adelina, there is definitely like a little piece of me in her personality. There's a little piece of me in all of my characters' personalities, but she's somebody who kind of lets things get to her, and is not a person that I would be comfortable becoming, but somebody that I deeply sympathize with, So
Yeah.
So like I love writing her. She's very dear to my heart. But it was hard being in her head, and she fought me a lot. Like, it makes me sound like a crazy person, that there's like these characters in my head who, are arguing with me, but she really just hammered at me, and I had a hard time writing her. But I'm proud that I was able to write her, and in the end we kind of had a little truce, so it turned out okay.
Well, and I think this question is as well is about what was the hardest death though to write? What death really hurt you? What death scene?
Ooh, death. Um, Gosh, what death is hard. They're all kind of hard, but I feel like they have to happen. Like, there's a lot of death that I feel like I had very little control over, and the story just went that way, and they just decided.
I mean,
it staged on their own.
I love it when writers say that, like they had no control. I'm like, you are literally typing the words. Like, you are the ones putting those words on the pages. You have absolute control. But I get it. I
want to take no blame for any of this.
I would nominate a certain death in, is it Champion or Prodigy that happens? I can't remember. A certain fighter pilot.
Yeah, I would say that was a hard one, because I did not see that one coming. I really, really, really thought that she was going to make it.
Aww.
Oh my god, getting spoilery, but this book has been
that's almost a 10-year plus spoiler too.
Yeah, like I really thought she was gonna make it. I did not know that she was not gonna make it out of that scene when I started that scene, and then she didn't, and I was like, oh no, my brain has gone this way, and that's just the way that she had to have it, I think. So I guess she should have gone out of blaze of glory no matter what. Like, it's just
that's a good blaze though. I thought it was a good blaze of glory.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, the next question is a Warcross question. And for those of you who are watching from the US, very excitingly, both Warcross books right now on ebook are on special sale. So if you haven't read this series, first of all, why not? What are you doing? But second, it's a completed duology, so you can go and read them right now. So ebook right now. And I think I'm going to try a little fancy thing and see if it works. I'm putting a link on screen. Oh, no, I'm not putting a link on screen. That's something else. I'm doing a fancy thing here, and I feel like I'm like some producer on a TV show that maybe or not working. That's the wrong one. All right, I'm putting what I think is a link on screen. You can tell me in the comments if it's working or not. I don't know. It might not be. But this is a link to the Warcross series. So the next question, enough of my silliness. The next question comes from Kalian Liani, and I apologize if I'm saying it incorrectly, but the question is, it's a Warcross question, is did Roshan and Tremaine travel back to London together after Wildcard? Spoiler alert! And will there be a third book?
Aw, Roshan and Tremaine question.
I know.
Of course they travel back to London together. Those two are each other. I'm sure they're doing very well right now. I loved writing the Warcross duology. I just loved it. And that story of Amika and Hideo is complete in itself. So it's a duology, but never say never. I would love to revisit the Warcross world someday. I just have to find the right, story for it. But Roshan and Tremaine are doing well.
Okay, good. I'm happy about that. Okay, the next question comes from Alessia A, and they want to know is, in which Harry Potter houses are your characters going to be sorted into? So let's pick the main character from each book. Where's June going?
June is, I always go back and forth on June, because she would clearly fit in Ravenclaw. Like, she's got all the Ravenclaw genes. She's got a little bit of Slytherin in her as well, I think. She's quite ambitious. And she's very loyal, she's very loyal to the people that she cares about. So I think she's got a little bit of both in her. Day is like Gryffindor, to the point where I think the hat would yell Gryffindor before he, got it on his head. So he's just Gryffindor to a T. Let's see. Adelina. I guess Adelina would be Slytherin. I was going back and forth between Gryffindor and Slytherin just because to her, it's kind of righteous what she's doing, and that would kind of make her Gryffindor. But Slytherin, I think, is better fit because I think deep down she kind of knows. She knows she's going down the wrong path, but she's ambitious and she wants what she wants. So that's her. And let's see, Amika. Amika is probably a Gryffindor. She's pretty. I mean, she likes to stand up for others and is quite headstrong in that way. Hideo. I think Hideo is a Ravenclaw. I wouldn't say he's Slytherin. I don't think he meant to be as ambitious as he turned out to be. I think he was driven into it, but he is clearly very curious about the world and how things work and that sort of thing. So I think he's Ravenclaw. What other books have I written? The Kingdom of Back. Let's see. Nannerl is a Slytherin for sure. Like she's in the best way. Like she wants to succeed. She wants to be heard, and she's just throwing everything she has at this thing that she wants, but the world is holding her back from it. So I think Slytherin fits her. Wolfgang, I think, is also a Slytherin. Like he's an incredibly charismatic little boy who loves his sister, so very loyal. Both siblings are very loyal to each other, and he's also very ambitious as well. I think that is everybody.
Great job. That's amazing. Well done. Okay. That's a hard one. You knew them. That's really good. All right. I'm going to keep the questions coming because there's so many. Cole wants to know is which world from your books would you like to live in?
That's tough. All the worlds are pretty messed up in different ways. I guess I would live in the Warcross world. I think that's the most colorful and fun out of all the worlds that I've got going on. Things are definitely going wrong in the Warcross world, but you can still enjoy yourself in the game, and that sounds kind of fun.
It's the funnest world to be in, for sure. Every other world, I'd just fear for my safety all the time. Whereas,
all the time.
At least with Warcross, I feel like there's a little bit of safety there sometimes. Okay, I really love this question from Christina Ann, and she wants to know she loved The Kingdom of Back. What is the coolest thing about getting to publish The Kingdom of Back since it had a different route to publication than the rest of your books?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
What is the coolest thing? Getting to see it published, I think, is the coolest thing. This is the book that, everybody I think has that book of their heart that's, it may not be something that you thought initially would be like the most logical path to publication. Like, I don't know what triggered it. It felt like just that book that was kind of magical and weird and didn't fit with any of my typical, writing tics, and I don't know why I wrote it really. I mean, I know why I wrote it, but it's that book. And for a long time, I thought that because it was such an odd book, we would never see the light of day, and I would try to kind of put in the corner with the rest of my manuscripts that didn't make it. And I've got, 4 or 5 of those sitting in the closet, like virtual closet, gathering dust. And I thought it would be one of those, and it took years and years and years until finally I was, given the chance to put that one out. So it feels very surreal to see it out, and it means a lot to me to see it there. And whenever I look at it, I am reminded of who I was at the time, that I wrote it. And it was so long ago, and I was so young and so unsure of what my future writing career or just my future would be like. And so I'm reminded of that whenever I see, the finished book on the shelf, and it's a reminder to me to not give up on things, and that maybe something will still pan out, and that things can happen.
Yeah. Oh no, we're frozen a little bit. Oh, that's okay. Okay, so that actually really ties into this next question, which is from a few people. So I'm going to put a few of them on screen. So we've got it from Tess Schwartz, from Grace Bromage, and from Nia Patel. And they all want to know what's your advice for aspiring writers?
So I have two that I tend to give bits of advice that I like to give. And the first one is don't be afraid to write something bad. And it's much easier to say than to do because I still have this problem. And what I mean by that is when you are starting out, um, you have this perfect vision in your head of what you want your story to be, and you start writing it and it's not coming out like that. So what I used to do is I would write 50 pages of a story and I would be like, this isn't what I want it to be. And I would revise. I would go back and try to fix it and fix it and fix it and just turn my wheels in the mud until I got tired of that story. And then some other shiny story would come along. I'm like, ooh, look at that one. And then I could abandon that story and go off and do the other one. And I just kept doing that. I never finished anything. And so I think it's important to remember at the beginning that quantity is more important than quality. Just write. Like, get it out. You have to have something to work with if you want to fix it. And I could not improve as a writer until I learned how to finish a book, however bad it was. Then I can go back. Then you can go back and you can chop out things, you can put things in, you can make it better, but you can't work with something that's not there. And the other bit of advice is you are not your book. And what I mean by that is when you get rejected early on as an aspiring writer, which almost everyone does, it's not a rejection of you as a person. And that was really hard for me in the beginning. Like I took every rejection very personally. And I think it's important to remember that a rejection is just one person's subjective opinion of this particular manuscript that you've written. And it's hard to remember just because, I know we put a bit of our heart into everything that we create. Like it's just the nature of creating things. But take a step back and remember that it's not a rejection of you as a person. You are amazing and wonderful and keep doing you. It just means that this manuscript was not right for that specific person. So I feel like I would have helped if I had thought about that more when I was, starting out. And every rejection always hit me really hard. But over time, I think it got easier because I remembered that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And every author that I've heard answer that question basically has a similar answer, which is put something on the page. And it's the truth in that you've got to get it out there. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And yeah. So the next question comes from PFB, and they want to know is, how do you come up with the names in Warcross and Legend?
Ooh.
Oh, you're still on mute, Marie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We're doing this. I'm trying not to make an echo. So let's see. How do I come up with my names? It's kind of piecemeal. Sometimes I will come up with a name because it has this particular meaning for me. Like Day's street name is kind of symbolic of his outlook on life, which is to walk in the light. Every 24 hours there's a chance for something new happening. It represents his optimism in life, and I thought that fit him really well. June was named after the month of June because I thought her personality matched a Gemini's very well. And then I made her birthday in July just to mess with people. My birthday's in July, so I wanted to give her my birthday. And then some characters just had names that were either from like a baby name site that I thought, this sounds nice. Like Raffaele's name was chosen specifically because I thought it sounded nice. He is a very beautiful person, so his name had to be equally beautiful for me. Adelina was found on a baby name site. Adelina means noble, which I found very ironic, so I liked that name for her. And then some names I just kind of create on my own because I think they sound nice. Like Amika is not a name that I found anywhere. It's just like a name that I thought sounded nice. So it kind of comes from all over the place. Sometimes I name characters after friends, or it has like a certain Easter egg thing behind it as well. So I get them from all over the place.
Was there have you ever had a character name where there was something else for a while and then you changed it?
Yeah, there's been a couple, mostly like minor characters, I think. I'm trying to think of anybody who, like, I don't think I had any major characters where that happened. I think pretty much all of my characters came fully formed with their correct names installed. I am working on a new book right now called Skyhunter, and I've got the villain in that book just changed his name like at the very last round of copy edits, where I was like, this name does not sound imperial enough. I need something that's a little bit more like So his name changed. I think that's the only one.
Ooh. Okay, well, this next question comes from Bunty Boo. And first of all, they wanted to say, P.S., sending you lots of love from New Zealand from this Cambodian fan. So lots of international viewers out there. And they wanted to know is how much of Johann's letters in the Kingdom of Back are real?
How much of the Kingdom of Back is real?
No, the Johann's letters in the Kingdom of Back.
Oh, Johann's letters. Johann's letters are not real. Johann's letters were made up by me. But it is a historical fact that Johann did see Nana and Mozart perform when she was 12 and he was 14 at the time. And I think he had written a little bit about watching them perform and had said like the girl played very impressively on the clavier, and that was a little snippet that inspired his character's relationship with Nannerl.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nah, so it's all fiction. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, it's all a blend.
This next question comes from Aisha Garda, and again, apologies if I've pronounced that incorrectly. What inspired you to write Rebel?
This is a great question. So I thought that Champion was done. I thought I finished that series with Champion. Even though I knew in my head what would happen to Day and June later on. I knew that they would end up in Antarctica somehow. But I felt like at the time I wanted that open ending. And then as time went on, I would like write little outtake scenes and I would post them online for people, and I would write these little epilogues and prologues, and just like the little bits and pieces kept coming out. And I think my readers kind of knew that I wasn't really done with this series. And then 2016 happened in the U.S. and just everything was awful. And I had this feeling that everything was out of my control. And because of that, I had this moment where I was like, I may not have control over everything in the real world, but I have complete control over my fictional world. And I had this feeling that I wanted closure for myself for the Legend series so that I could tell myself and my readers that things could be okay. So that was the original inspiration for writing Rebel. I felt like it was time to close out the epilogue of that series. And that was what inspired it. And I guess it's kind of appropriate that I made people wait almost as long as they had to wait for June. So I hope you guys liked it and it was worth it.
I mean, that ending of Champion was that hurt something fierce. So, I mean, I feel like maybe you just wrote Rebel to stop people coming up to you going, why? Why would you do that to us?
Yeah, now it could be like, here's the book that answers all of your questions.
Well, and so the next question is a little bit like that, is from Helen, and they wanted to know is, what are Amika and Hideo doing right now? Wouldn't we all like to know?
They are doing right now. They are probably arguing about their food or whatever they're eating at the moment. I feel like they're the kind of couple that would bicker about little things all the time, but are like wildly in love with each other. They're that couple. They're probably arguing about food. I'm almost 100% sure.
Yeah, well, but as long as they're together, that makes our heart a little happier.
They are definitely together, arguing.
Okay, from Parrot Carrot, who I have to say I love the screen name, is, are there any parts of your storyline from any of your books that you wish you could change?
Oh, that's a great question too. Anything I wish I could change? I don't think there's anything major that I would change out of any of my books. I've definitely written many alternate versions of books just because it's the nature of how I write. I'm a pantser writer, so that means as I write with the seat of my pants, I don't really outline. So a lot of my stories are incredibly different from the way that they began. And like the original ending for Legend, for example, was much darker and very different from what actually happens. And the same goes for the Young Elites. So I guess in that way, like I feel lucky that I've been able to change everything that I felt needed to be changed in time before the book comes out, just because I know my book can change so drastically over time. I'm sure there will be a day when I go back and I'm like, oh God, I really hope I changed that. And now that I say that, there is one thing that I would change. It's a small thing. in Warcross, and it's because I can't count. And I'm terrible at math, and I don't know why I put in point systems, but apparently the points do not add up in that book. And it drives me insane. And I've gotten so many messages from readers who are like, at the end of Warcross 1, she does not end up with the right number of points to be leveling up to this amount. Is there a reason for that? I'm like, no, there is no reason for it other than I cannot count. So I would like to fix that.
Oh my god, I love that so much, that the whole book is undone because actually no, she didn't make the finals. That's my favorite thing ever. What, for those people who have asked in the comments, what particularly, I know that Young Elites, you've talked about it before, in that originally was an entirely different book. Tell, for people who don't know that story, what was different about it?
This is for the Young Elites, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Young Elites was very different, and I posted a little outtake of it recently, like a couple weeks ago, and I've got another 100 pages of that version, like sitting on my computer. But basically, the very first version of the Young Elites was just me wondering about this fantasy world where young people who come out of a pandemic come out of it and survive with special powers, and what the society would do with them. Essentially like X-Men in the Renaissance was what it was. But the original story was not starring Adelina. It actually starred Raffaele, but a very different Raffaele. He was very milquetoast, like Clark Kent, just a good guy, very boring. And it was about how he had this unusual power, and how the different societies, the Dagger Society, the Rose Society, were trying to recruit him. And Adelina was the third person villain in that version of the story. So she was very much a big part of the story, but she was the villain. And I wrote 100 pages of that version of the story, and I gave it to my agent. And my agent, who I love, but she does not sugarcoat anything for me. Kristen was like, on the phone, she literally said to me, when you gave this to me, did you think that it was good?
Whoa.
I was like, well, that's why I gave it to you. And then she was like, the only thing I like about this book is Adelina. And she's like, she is really fun. I hope you keep her in. Everything else does not work for me. And I was like, well, maybe I should make her the main character. so that's what got me thinking about it. And that was the moment when I realized, like, oh, maybe I want to tell the villain story. That's the problem with this version of the book. So yay for figuring it out, but also, oh my God, I have to completely undo everything that I've just written. Yeah, so that was the original version of it.
Oh, we love Adelina, and we love that she got her story the right way. That's the inspiration point. All right, the next question comes from Alana, and they wanted to know, what inspired Warcross?
Inspired Warcross. Warcross was inspired by the fact that I used to work in games. Before I became a full-time writer, I was an art director in the video game world. I started out at Disney, and I worked a couple of years with them, and I loved it. And then I went over to the mobile gaming side and worked for a couple of startup studios that were making mobile games. And I always felt like I wanted to write a book about games. I love games. I have, I have a lot of friends who are in games, and it's a fun, wild world. And I'm just interested in technology. I'm interested in both the good and bad sides of it and how it affects our society. And so those two things came together ultimately into the book Warcross. And I think the missing piece of that was always coming up with the right main character for a story like that. So I had to wait until Amika walked into my head. And just like with the Young Elites, I have a version of this book that is incredibly different from what ultimately ended up being. The very first version was about 3 bounty hunters who were involved in the Warcross Championships, which took place in space throughout the entire solar system. They were like in Saturn or something. And I went through that story, and I was like, you know what? There is too much going on here.
I mean,
so pare that back.
I don't hate it, and I would kind of want to read it, because I feel like you going into space would do something amazing and different and unique. And I feel like everyone in the comments is going to be like, make that book happen. Make the Bounty Hunters in Space Marie Lou book happen now. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very confusing draft. You would not have liked it. But maybe someday.
Okay. This next question comes from Beautiful Books, and they wanted to know is, do you dream about the characters you write or get inspiration from your dreams at all?
You know, I wish I did. I try to dream about my characters all the time. Like I sometimes will go to bed, like I'll like when I'm drafting, I will try to like read a section of my draft and then go to sleep. And then I'm like, maybe I'll dream about them this time. I have never dreamed about my characters, like ever. I don't know why. It's a bummer.
You're like bitterly disappointed, and I love it.
Really disappointed.
Okay, this next question comes from Xena, and Xena wants to know is, have you read any fan fiction about your books?
Fan fiction. I have not read any fan fiction. I have read some summaries of fan fiction. And I find them all very interesting. And I just kind of love it. I grew up writing fan fiction. You know, like my first work of fiction was fan fiction. It was like I wrote it when I was 8, and it was about Sonic the Hedgehog. It was very dark. He broke his leg and couldn't run anymore. It was a whole thing. But I love the world of fan fiction, so I'm really glad and honored that people are writing fan fiction in the books, but I haven't read any. And I think it's a little weird for me too.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cool.
Well, but you also have, I would have to say, one of the most amazing fan bases, because the fan art that's out there for your work is stunning.
Yeah, it really is. I truly, there are a few honors greater than getting fan work of your work. So every time I see fan art, fan fiction, any fan creation, it means a great deal. So thank you to all of you for doing that. It means a lot to me.
Okay, this next question comes from Beatrice Fraser, and they wanted to know is, describe your new characters from Skyhunter.
Describe my new characters from Skyhunter. I'm so excited to talk about this book, and I'm trying to think of all the things that I can say without getting in trouble. Let's see. I'll keep this vague. This book is technically science fiction. There is no magic in it, but it feels kind of like it might be a fantasy. It stars a girl named Talon, who is incredibly good at killing people. But she's a good person. She's a good person who has to do this to defend her country. And it is also about a boy named Red, who has some mysterious things about him that ultimately Talon and the others that she knows discover. That is about as much as I can say about them, except that I really liked writing about them. I am a sucker for the trope of hate to love, in case you didn't figure it out in the Legend series. So there's a little bit of that going on here with them. And there are also a couple of other very close companions and friends to Talon. Basically this group of young people who are incredibly talented at what they do and are all banding together to protect their country. And they're like young people going through a war together. So I wanted to write this story dedicated to the friendship and bond between those young people, as well as a growing romance between two of them. So that's about as much as I can say. I hope you guys like it when it comes out.
Well, when is it? When is it coming out? What's the date for everyone?
I think I'm totally gonna get this wrong. I think it's September 30th.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that.
If it's a Tuesday, it's 9/29.
Oh, then September 29th.
You know what? It's publishing, and I now have Tuesdays ingrained in my head. Everybody, that's the way it goes. So yeah, that's Tuesdays is forever in my head.
Nice.
Okay, this next question is from Berenice Rodriguez, and I love it because you have been one of our authors who's guest starred on the Penguin Teen TikTok, and they wanted to know is, which of your characters do you think would become TikTok famous? Oh, mute.
Sorry. Which of my characters would become TikTok famous? Oh gosh. I feel like Maggiano would become TikTok famous. He seems like he's got the personality for it.
Yeah.
I think Day would definitely be TikTok famous because he could film parkour. I just realized he could do that. So he would just be like, Taz, hold my phone. I'm going to do this parkour trick. And I'm sure he would go viral for that. Yeah. So I think those two probably would.
I love that. Yeah, I think they would be very good. And I also think Amika would be great on TikTok because that rainbow hair would be so awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. She would probably do some like hair routine things
Yeah.
on TikTok that would probably go over well. I think. Actually, I don't know. Do you do that on TikTok? I'm
Yeah.
very like like wait, that's like a YouTube thing.
No, she
I don't
can
know.
do this.
I should be really good at TikTok.
There's hair stuff on TikTok. But you
Oh.
very excitingly were on Penguin Teen TikTok and one of our very first authors to do it. And I think had a fun time, I want to say.
It was very fun. It was because it was with you, Felicity. That's why it was.
I was not fishing for compliments, but I will take that compliment. All right, this next question, which I love, and it's not necessarily about all of them, but is from, it's also from Beatrice Fraser as well, who's got good questions, Beatrice. I'm loving them. Is what would happen if Amika and June were to meet?
What would happen if Amika and June were to meet? I think they would argue a lot. I feel like they're both headstrong in that way, but I think they would respect each other a lot as well, and I think ultimately they would become BFFs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those two would get along really well after the initial, bickering over stuff.
There'd be a bit of standoffing. Well, and I think there's a bigger question out there from a lot of the fans in the comments, so I can't add you all, but everyone wants to know is, and obviously this is post the world getting back on its feet and travel being allowed to happen, is when are you coming, particularly hi to the Turkish fans, because everyone wants to know when you're coming to Turkey, but also just in general, a lot of European countries out there watching who would love to know when you're next going to hit the road. And obviously this is all with a big asterisk next to it of when the world is safe to travel. Where do you think you'd love to go next?
I would love to go as soon as it's possible to, but I really hope that all of you are safe and healthy in the meantime and that everyone that you know is okay. It's been scary to see all the reports about how it's going on all over the world, especially for all of you in Europe and in Turkey. So I hope that you guys are safe and I hope that I get to see you soon. I was supposed to come over this summer to Europe, but I don't think that will pan out now. I'm not totally sure, but I'm almost like 90% sure it's not going to pan out. But I hope that, that's a good thing. I don't want you guys to be heading out if you don't have to, and I hope you stay safe, and hopefully maybe next year I get a chance to see all of you, especially in Turkey. I would love to visit Turkey.
Yeah, and I think that's important. We want you to stay safe. To all the readers who are watching, whether you're asking questions or not, please stay safe and healthy, and everyone in publishing and Marie, all our thoughts are always with you. So just we want you to know that, and we want you to be around and be having fun with us online. So this is how we're going to make it happen in the short term. We're going to bring the authors to you. So on that note, the next question is from Priscilla, and I really like this question, is The Kingdom of Back. Did you hear the song, the title from the tune from The Kingdom of Back? Did you hear it when you wrote it?
Did I hear the song? That's a great question. No, I don't have a musical mind in that way. Like, I've never been able to compose a song to save my life. I'm pretty sure I couldn't save my life by composing a song. I just had Mozart's music on repeat the entire time I wrote The Kingdom of Back. So for about a decade, I had his music on. And so I was hearing the more ominous pieces of Mozart in my head when I was thinking about those scenes. So some parts of Requiem, which is one of my favorite operas from him, even though it was unfinished. That's what he died writing. Don Giovanni is a great dark piece by Mozart. And bits of the Magic Flute, like the Magic Flute is kind of like a dark-ish story to me. So yeah, all those songs were in all those pieces were in my playlist as I was going through. So that's probably what I was imagining in my head as I wrote those scenes.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think we've talked about it, and I think the way that you write the music is so beautifully done in The Kingdom of Back, and it's so that's really hard to do. It's a skill. It's a real skill. This next question comes from Grace Bramage, and Grace wanted to know is it ever emotionally taxing for you to write big character deaths or heartbreaks? Does it really hit you emotionally?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like I remember writing Champion like it was yesterday. Like I bawled my eyes out writing that book. And I feel like I kind of have to feel it if I expect my readers to feel it, and for better or worse. So yeah, I get super emotional at the ends of my series. Like I remember feeling that way with The Young Elite. I remember feeling that way at the climax of Wild Card, like towards the end of the Warcross series, when everything comes to a head. Like, there's a lot of moments where, you know, I've got to feel the weight of what my characters are feeling. I guess that's my punishment for doing this stuff to them all the time. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
that second part of Wildcard, not spoilering, but that's a heartbreaker from about halfway through when things get explained about what happened. Oh, Marie, why would you do that? Why would you hurt us that way?
Yeah, it's kind of a downer.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks. Okay, this next question comes from Inigo, and they wanted to say they're 13 and you're their favourite author. And they want to know is who was your favourite author at that age and what made you want to become an author?
That is so sweet. Thank you guys so much. That like makes my entire life to hear that. It's a huge honor. Thank you guys. When I was 13, my favorite author was Brian Jake. I was obsessed with the Redwall books, like just obsessed. It was the first series that I ever read that was fantasy. So that was my introduction to fantasy and science fiction. So I credit Brian Jakes with being the one who got me into reading and then ultimately writing fantasy and science fiction. So thank you, Brian Jakes. And I wish I could have met him at some point in my life. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but he was just like there's a special place in my heart for those books, like forever until the end of time.
This next question, I love this one, comes from Henry Seiko, and Henry wants to know is when you're writing your books, do you know the characters before you start writing, or do they come to you as you're writing?
With characters, they are definitely in place before I start writing. The ones, I know I said I don't really plan my books, but characters I do tend to figure out ahead of time. Sometimes they change a little bit throughout the writing of it, and this particularly happened for Skyhunter, where a lot of changes happened with characters. But the core of them kind of stayed the same, and I feel like I can't write a draft without really knowing who the characters are, so it's hard for me to start a story without really understanding the emotional impact of who's getting that story.
Yeah. That's a good one. Okay, this next question comes from Baguette Boy, and they wanted to know is what are the kind of tastes in shows or music that some of your characters have?
Can you say that one more time? What are some of the...
What kind of tastes in shows or music do your characters have?
Oh, what kind of taste? Gosh, let's see. Well, I guess we'll do the main characters again. Amika likes electronica, of course. She likes anything punk. I'm sure she's a big fan of. She also likes classical music a lot. Let's see. Hideo, I imagine, is kind of the classy, you know, likes classical music, likes contemporary jazz, that kind of guy. Let's see. Day. Gosh, I don't know. I guess Day's into alternative. June. This is a hard question. I'm like, so like, I thought I knew my characters. Adelina probably likes heavy metal, I imagine. Yeah, I think she would get along with Jay Christoph really well. Right?
I feel Adelina could guest star really well in the Nevernight series. She'd fit well in it.
Good.
That would be a crossover I'd like to see. Just saying.
I would love that.
Well, actually, I'm going to ask a follow-on question of besides that one, are there any other series that you would love to cross over your characters on for like a special guest episode? Who would you love to write in? What world would you love to write into?
Ooh. Speaking of Jay and Amy, I always think of Illuminae. Gosh, I feel like Amika and Hideo would have a blast in the Illuminae world. A very stressful blast. It's just a very stressful series, but in the best way.
I feel like Katie and Amika would get on like a house on fire.
Oh my gosh, BFFs from the moment they meet.
Yeah. And they'd just be running the show. They'd be like, don't mind us, we're just going to control everything on our computers.
Everyone else is like, you know what, I think our work is done here. Yeah, that would be really fun. I think that Day and June would have a blast in their Tahara Mafi's world. I think they would love that. that world. I think they would kind of love Ransom's world too. And Subba's world, and Ashes. Yeah, equally dark. I think darker world, but super epic. And I feel like June and Leia would bond really well, and they would totally pick out together.
Adelina and Helene would be like ride or die.
Helene.
I mean, we'd all be in real trouble, but they would be like a power couple, a power duo.
We would all be in real trouble, really.
Yeah,
it's true.
Okay, I love this next question so much. And it's sort of it's other ship names as well. But how do you? It's from Xena, and she wants to know how do you feel about that fact that Hammy and Ash's ship name is Hammer?
Ooh, is that what it is?
Apparently.
I think it's kind of cool. It's always fun to me when like the ship name is an actual word. So yeah, I think that'd be cute. I think they would like. I think Cammy would be weirded out by it. I think Asher would be a-okay with it.
I love that so much. It's a great question. All right, I'm scrolling through trying to get some more questions answered. Okay. How does it feel? Okay, so here's a great one. How does it feel? And you kind of touched on this. This is from Friday, and she wants to know how does it feel for you when a fan-made artwork is dedicated to your books, like seeing sketches and sculptures and videos? And she also wanted to say that she will be dyeing her hair like Amiga after quarantine because she has to do it.
I think I saw this message on Twitter, and I am so excited. If you do it, you have got to tell me and show me a photo because that needs to be seen by the world.
100%. Pictures or it didn't happen, Friday. Pictures or it didn't happen.
Yes, exactly. Picture didn't happen. That's super awesome. And I mean, for the original question, like I said, the biggest honor for me is fans creating something inspired by something that I created. So that is the person that I grew up as. I'm still that person. You know, I loved drawing fan art. I loved writing fan fiction. And it's just, I think it means the world to any creative person to be able to see other people create things in the world. So it means the world to me. You guys are awesome. Thank you. All my heart.
Okay, this next question is from Ashley Monsavius, and they want to know what was your darkest alternative ending for one of your books that never made the light of day?
One of my darkest alternative endings. The end of Legend was pretty dark. Can I say it? I guess I could say it.
Say it.
For now, forever. Well, in the original ending, Day actually did die. And June actually had to go through life like dealing with that. That's pretty dark. And I went back and I was like, you know what? This actually does not fit his character arc very well. He can't go through all this and struggle and then die. So I went back and I changed that. It just didn't work. So that was the original ending. So you can thank me for that, taking that one out, everyone. Yeah, that was one. And in the Young Elites, I actually can't remember what I did in the end of the original Young Elites. I think all the characters died. I think everybody who was a Young Elite died in the original ending.
Oh my god!
Because that was the only way to solve things. And then I was like, this can't be the way to solve things. People are going to kill me if I put this ending out. So I made it slightly less dark, but still kind of a, it's Adelina. She can't have like a rosy ending, So.
Yeah. She's dark. It had to go dark. Okay. So Ais KT wants to know does Warcross have a character that's inspired by you, considering it sort of came from your gaming background?
Does Warcross have a character that's inspired by me or like my life or history or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that I am Amika, but Amika is my wish fulfillment character. Like, she is the embodiment of who I would like to be. So there are a lot of pieces of my personality in Amika. But she is like the more confident, more like colorful hair version of myself, who can actually like hack into computers and stuff. I put a lot of things that I wish I could do in her personality. So yeah, I think she's pretty close to who I am. I think she might be the only one that I actually no, like was based on like reality. I think everyone else is kind of based on an idea. You know, Hideo is kind of the hot young Asian Tony Stark, maybe, or like
Yeah.
like you know that trope, like the super genius billionaire guy.
Yeah, I see it.
Um,
I totally.
so yeah, he's got a little bit of that in him with like a wounded heart, you know,
Oh,
because they've got to have a wounded heart.
yeah, they do.
Yeah, so I don't know anyone like that though.
This next question I love. It's from Alicia, and she's from France, and she wanted to say kisses from France. And also, what is your all-time favorite Day and June scene?
What is my all-time favorite day in June scene? Oh, um, okay, I've got two. I really love the first moment when June walks in and Day, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And Dave's like, "I'm making a paperclip ring," and he explains what it is, and June's like, "Did you know that paperclips are made out of titanium alloys and won't, you know, rust?" And he's just like, "I just cannot with you right now." I just loved writing that little moment between them because it was just like so June. June was so June in that moment, and Day was so Day, and I just love that moment between them. And I love the moment when they were like fight when June was teaching Day how to fight down in the tunnels, and that was like her way of apologizing to him. Um, so yeah, I really like writing those two scenes.
Yeah. Okay, this one is from the screen. Their screen name is amazing. It's Womp Womp Whoop. So their question is Womp Womp Whoop wants to know is do you speak any other languages?
Do I speak any other languages? I can speak Mandarin Chinese, but I'm illiterate, so I don't actually know how to read or write it, which means I was very embarrassed when I went to China and I'm asking people like, where's the bathroom? You know, where's this and where's that? They're like, the sign is right here, lady. You know? So I'm just like, right, I knew that. Yeah, so I kind of sort of am, you know, speak, right, whatever, Mandarin Chinese, and English. Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes. All right, we've got time for just a couple more questions left. I'm seeing so many, and I promise I'm going to try and get to as many as we can, but just a few more we're going to sneak in. This next question comes from Mother War, and they want to know is do you have playlists for different characters? And I guess my add-on question to that is do you write with music or are you a silence writer?
Oh, I have to write with music. I have to write with something, but like I can't write in silence. But I also can't write with music that has lyrics in it
Right.
because it's just too distracting for me. But I mean, I can put music on that is in a language that I don't understand. So then I can't really concentrate on the lyrics, which is why I have like a bunch of BTS music on my playlist because I don't understand Korean. So that's nice. I don't tend to create playlists for specific characters. I tend to create playlists of moods. So I will have like a happy playlist and like a dark playlist and an action playlist and like a romantic scene playlist and you know that kind of music. I'll split up like that usually. Then I'll have like a favorites folder where I just play like the same 8 songs, you know, for the whole year, and that's basically what I'm writing that specific book to. So that's how I split up. But I definitely have to have music on. I cannot write in silence.
Is there songs that you associate very specifically with the books? Like, can you not listen to that song and say that is Legend's song, and I can't write again to it now because I just get dragged back into that?
Yeah, there definitely are. I'm now trying to think back to what those were. I can't think of any of the titles of the songs right now, but I can tell you that I'm working on like a secret project right now. I've always got a secret project going on at any given time, and the secret project song that I keep listening to, ironically, it has lyrics in it, is Leonard Cohen's. Oh, see, now I have to put it up on my phone. I'm trying to remember the title of it. You Want It Darker, and it seems a better way. I think that's the title. I may be ad-libbing that, but anyway, so like those two songs have been playing a lot while I've been like outlining this secret project of mine.
Yeah.
And those have lyrics in it, but I'm not like drafting yet, so I can listen to those.
Okay, this next question comes from Sarah Peralta, and she wants to know is what are your best tips for character development?
My best tips for character development. I tend to And I actually am about to do a wordsmith seminar with Beth Revis about this very specific topic on Monday. So check that out on my Instagram. I've got the link in my bio. And we're going to go into it for like an hour. But in general, I would say one of the things that I like to do when I start off creating characters is that I like to create a couple of characters and then put those characters into a white room and just write like dialogue between them, just to see how they work with me. Like, do they not like each other? Do they fight with each other? Do they, what do they talk about? Do they joke with each other? Do they fall in love? Like, I just like to see what they're doing. And I feel like if my character is strong enough, they tend to start interacting with each other in like a natural sort of way. So that is an exercise that I tend to do early on when I'm drafting a new story idea. Yeah, and because I feel like when you create characters, creating individual characters is very important, but the magic happens in character relationships. Like when you put two characters together and their interactions with each other, that is where we get that feeling of it, that feeling of like, ooh, this one hits me in my soul, It's hard to do that with an individual character. Like, you've got to have two or more. And when they spark off each other, if they do it the right way, like that's what you remember in the book, Like this is why Six of Crows is such a great book, because all of these characters are so well built, but it's her interactions that she creates between each of them that makes us remember Kaz and Inej and everybody. So I think that book is like a masterclass on character development. So read Six of Crows if you want to learn about characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, a lot of people are asking is, what are you doing during this sort of quarantine time? Obviously, aside from writing, what TV shows are you watching? What books are you reading? What things would you recommend to people to love?
Yeah, well, like weirdly, like my time for myself has kind of been cut in half during the quarantine, just because we usually are lucky enough to have a nanny, but we don't have a nanny right now. So my husband and I are kind of trading off on like baby duties at the moment, which is great. Like it's kind of been awesome spending extra time with our baby. But it's harder to work in time for like work and then also reading and like watching shows and that sort of stuff. But having said that, my husband and I do try to sneak in like, together time like at night when the baby's gone off to bed. And we watched Next in Fashion, which is this really fun reality show on Netflix. It's basically Project Runway on steroids. You've got like, they get like basically 12 hours to make like an outfit, and then they go down the runway. And you're just like, how are they doing this? But they're all so good and talented, and it's a great show to watch during quarantine. What else have I watched? I think that one's been the main one. We watched like a couple of movies together. Like I watched Parasite during quarantine. Like so good. And weird and awesome, and different. I've been reading. I think we may have talked about this in our last talk, Felicity. I read Fallen Glory: The Lives and Deaths of History's Greatest Buildings, which is a great nonfiction read about like the rise and fall of mighty civilizations and how they are toppled and like the famous buildings that went with them, which I guess is kind of appropriate for this atmosphere. So, gauge your level of being able to tolerate that kind of story during the quarantine. It's not like a feel-good story, but really, really interesting and fun. And yeah, otherwise I've just kind of been indulging in just lighthearted things, like rewatching old movies that make me happy. And like Prima and I just rewatched like 50 First Dates the other night, and I was like, oh, kind of cute. And like The Wedding Singer and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah, like just, yeah.
People need a bit of like light stuff right now. All right, I've got one question, and it's the one more question left, and it's the one that a lot of people are asking in the comments is, what does Tremaine look like from the Warcross series? A lot of people want to know what Tremaine looks like.
What does Tremaine look like? See, now I'm going to get myself in trouble because I don't actually remember everything about him, but I just remember he's pale to the point of looking kind of sickly, like he's got like slight like circles under his eyes because he's so pale. And now I'm trying to remember if I kept his hair dark or if I left it blonde. I think his hair is dark.
but could change it. Could change it.
Yeah, Yeah, like speaking of things that, characters changing halfway through the story. Yeah, I think that was hair color for Tremaine was one of them. I think he's blonde. I want to say he's blonde. If he's not blonde, he dyed his hair blonde. So
Okay.
that's what he looks like.
Well, Marie, I want to say I have to unfortunately cut this short because unfortunately we've run out of time. But for everyone who's joined us today, thank you so much for all of your questions. So many people, we saw you in the comments asking everything from the big, over the top questions to some of the things about hair color and what it look like. So we love how much you love Marie's characters and her series. If you're a Kingdom of Back fan and you're in the US, don't forget Penguin Teen are running an amazing competition where you can create your own music and Marie will judge and you will win all of her books signed to you. So there's still time to enter. You can head to either our Instagram for details or penguinteen.com for all the details. And also, if you're in the US, don't forget those Warcross ebooks are on sale right now, books 1 and 2, and it ends tomorrow. So time is running out. Marie, thank you for joining us, though.
Thank you so much, Felicity. It's always so fun, and the questions were amazing. Thank all of you for being here and asking your questions, and hopefully we'll get to talk again soon.
Absolutely. For everyone who's tuned in, we want to thank you so much. We are having a break next week because the very exciting Y'all Stay Home festival is on. It's a weekend festival that originally is in California, and because of obviously the stay-at-home situation, they're going to take it online. So there'll be authors from all manner of publishing houses, all doing lives all weekend. So if you're looking to speak to more authors, next weekend is going to be an exciting weekend for you. Otherwise, Marie, again, thank you so much for joining us, and fans at home, thank you for playing along. We've had a great time today. Bye.
Thank you, guys.